So what we're going to start with, first of all, let's create a variable called end of line, and we are going to put in between the double quotes. It is important. It has to be in between the double quotes, not a single quote. We're going to put this new line character, basically this \r\n. So that's done. Now let's create the to variable, and we are going to specify who we want to send this email to. And I'm going to simply put ssd tutorials, and in between the angle brackets, I'm going to put ssdtutorials@gmail.com. This is my email address. Obviously, if you are trying to test it, make sure that you put in your email address. And if you are on Windows, as you saw earlier, obviously, make sure that you remove this format and you just put the email address for the to variable. Okay, next we are going to be setting up the subject. So subject equals, and in between the double single quotes this time, a fantastic new course on PHP and the exclamation mark at the end. Okay, then we are going to create our message. So message, and we start with the paragraph. This time it's going to be in a single quote because we're going to be using some attributes on the given HTML tags, because this is going to be the HTML email. So we are going to create a paragraph, starting with the paragraph, basically style attribute, and we're gonna go for color. Let's say we want to set it to #333, which is this dark gray. Then font family, I would like to use Arial. Then if Arial is not available, Helvetica. And if that's not available, any default sans serif on the system. Semicolon, and let's just close this line. Then we go for message again, we concatenate it. We obviously didn't close this style attribute yet. As you can see, double quote hasn't been placed at the end, so we continue. Again, single quote. Font size this time, let's set it to 12 pixels for instance, and then semicolon again. Obviously I'm assuming you're familiar with CSS. If you're not, basically this is how you put all these definitions. You separate them with the semicolon. So color, then colon, and whatever value you want to associate with it, then semicolon, and again the name of the attribute, which this time is font family, colon, and then whatever you want to associate with this specific one, then separating again with the semicolon, and so on. Font size, we've done 12 pixels. We're gonna go for padding now, 20 pixels, and let's go, actually let's do 20 from top and bottom and 15 from left and right. Then we are going to go for border colon solid. We want 1 pixel at the color AAA, which is this light gray. And we are going to close this line, then again message, and let's go for the background color, which we are going to specify as F9, which is light gray, even lighter than this border. And then line height, let's put it as 21 pixels. As you can see, everything is with the pixels. And then semicolon, we don't have to put the last semicolon if it's the last attribute of the CSS, but I'm going to put it here anyway. And then we have closing double quotes to make sure that we're closing this style attribute. And what I'm going to do next is close this angle bracket. So that's our opening paragraph with all the styling. Then we go for message. Again, we are concatenating. As you can see, we started the first one, doesn't have a full stop because the first in line, and then we concatenating whatever the previous message is with what follows after, basically in between the single quotes. Okay, then we are going for the actual message that we want to put in between this opening closing paragraph very shortly. And the message will say, hey, hi there, did you hear about that new PHP course at, then space, and I'm going to concatenate it again, and we are going to put the link in this email at, and I'm opening the angle bracket with A for the anchor tag, and then href, which will link to http://ssdtutorials.com, closing double quotes, and then target, because we are going to be obviously clicking on this from within the email client, that should open the new tab or new window, a new browser window. So target blank, Then we can close all this, and let's put the text for this link, so SSD tutorials, and then closing Uncle Tag, and a question mark at the end because that is actually a question. So that should do this, and then we close the paragraph tag, and that's our entire message. Obviously, if you're not familiar with HTML, please make sure you research a little bit. Obviously, that is basically the anchor tag. That's how you put the anchor tag. A in between a opening and closing angle brackets. Then you have href attribute, which is basically pointing to a specific URL in between a double quotes. Then we have target attribute of this anchor tag as well. And underscore blank says that when you click on this, open new tab. If it was previewed in a browser, for instance, it would open the new tab on your window. Otherwise, it would replace the window basically. But we are talking about email client. Most likely you are going to be opening this from within something like Outlook, say Mail on OS X or anything else, or Thunderbird or any other mail client. Okay, and then obviously we close in there. We put the closing paragraph tag as well. So that's our message, HTML message. Now what we're going to do is to wrap this message, make sure that it's no longer than 70 characters as the documentation said. And we already know how to do it. So message, we are now going to overwrite it with word wrap. We've used this function earlier. Then we put our message as the first argument, how many characters we want per line, 70. And then we want them to be at the end of this line to use this end of line characters. That's why we've created this variable at the beginning, because we're going to be using it in a few places, and rather than retyping the same thing over and over again, we just created a variable. Now we can basically place it wherever we need it. Okay, so that's our message completed. Now let's put the headers. So headers, and we're going to create an empty array to start with, and then we're going to go for headers. And the first header will be the required one from. So from, then colon, space. And now, because again, we are on, I'm on a Unix. If you're on Windows, you might want to use just email address. But what we are doing is here we're going to be using the Unix approach, which is basically, let's put something. I'm going to put Uncle Sep, for instance, and in between angle brackets, I'm going to put SSD tutorials, say me.com. Obviously, I don't even know if this email exists, but that's what it's going to be showing in the from field of the email. Now I'm going to duplicate this line. This time, rather than having from, I'm going to put reply to, because you can specify this as well in the headers. And let's just put email address here. So I'm just going to keep it like this. Then another one, and let's do CC, so if someone else should also receive this email, and let's keep it the same. And then for the BCC, so B and two C's in lower case, and the same email address. Okay, let's create a few new lines. Now headers, to specify that we want to have the HTML format of the email, so headers, we need to apply MIME version first, so MIME hyphen version, and that's going to be 1.0. And then the next one will be headers, and we need to specify what content type it is. So content hyphen type, colon, space, text, and then / HTML. And after this, semicolon, and we need to specify the character set. So har set equals, and rather than UTF-8, which you might be tempted to use, and which would work in quite a few email clients, we are going to use ISO-8859-1. This is because UTF-8 isn't supported in all of the mail systems. Gmail will work with UTF-8, but some other mail systems may not. So to stay on the safe side, we're going to use this ISO-8859-1. And depending on what sort of characters you are going to be using with your email, within your message, basically within your headers for names, for instance, and so on, you might be trying different ones. So based on your language, your chosen language, basically, and characters in your language and your alphabet, make sure that you Google this and find which character set is best for email with this those specific characters. Okay, so that's what we're going to be using. ISO 8859-1 is the most popular one, but as I said, try it with different one if your language is different than English and so on. Okay, so that's our headers. Now if we go for if mail, and then we are going to pass this to as first argument, then we have our subject as second, then we have our message as third, and lastly we are going to use implode function, and the glue in our case will be end of line character, this \r\n, and we want to concatenate our headers using this implode function basically. And we're checking if, and I'm just going to put the space here so we can clearly see that this function is called from within this if statement. So if this mail returns true, means it has sent the message. What we want to see in the browser, echo message sent and the exclamation mark. Else, otherwise, if it returned false, we're going to echo message not sent. And let's put the exclamation mark as well. Okay, so what we've done here, just to have a look at this again, we've got an end of line character, so we can use it in multiple places, and if we need to change it at any time, we only have to change it in one place. Then we have the to email address, so who do we want this email to be sent to? Then we have a subject of the email. Then we have our message, which we've created using HTML approach. We've got a paragraph, wrapping paragraph, then we have a message with anchor tag as well, so that whoever is going to receive this message will be able to click on this link and open the page in a browser. Then we have our message wrapped to make sure that it's only each line isn't longer than 70 characters, which is the requirement for this mail function. Then we started combining our headers together. So we got from, we've got reply to, we've got CC, we've got BCC. Then we have MIME version and content type to make sure that the message is received as HTML in HTML format. Otherwise, all these tags would be stripped and you only would see the text. This link wouldn't be clickable. So that's HTML, and then we basically check in doing the conditional statement. If mail has been sent, display this message in the browser, otherwise display this message. So mail, we pass in the arguments as obviously mail requires. First is a to, then we have subject, then we have a message, and then we combine all these headers, this array of headers, together using this end of line. We could also, if you don't want to use this implode, you could basically use this end of line on each line separately, basically. But using this implode is much easier. Obviously, you don't have to play with this on every single line. You just add it to the implode function, and that adds it together, combining this into a single string. So that's basically our code. Let's now go and test it. So if we open everything in the browser, we go to the course.dev, and if we refresh the page, the function has been triggered. You can see message send, which means that the message has been processed, our end. And if we go to the mailbox, there we go, Uncle Seb. And we have this a fantastic new course on PHP. So we received this message, and as you can see, we've got our message formatted within this box with the darker gray color on this light gray color with the link. If I click it, it opens ssdtutorials.com. This website needs a bit of a facelift as well, but hey, this is what it is. And if we checked all the details from the format that we specified, reply to, then we have to whom it's been sent as well. As you can see, the same format as we specified. CC, BCC we won't see because obviously this is the hidden field. Then we have a date, we have a subject, and obviously we have our message within the main window. So that's how you can use the mail function to send a simple email. If you're on Windows and your email did not send, then that's probably down to your setup on the setup on your computer, this MTA, which we've read about earlier on the documentation. Don't worry about this. You will be able to test it when we publish the entire project to the web server in the last chapter. So just stay with us if you have any problems sending email from your Windows machine.